Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed. I just want to make sure you know that this is being recorded. And so is it okay if I start asking you some questions?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. So Judith, first of all, just tell me your name and where you're from.
My name is Judith Fox, and I'm from Lock Haven, Pennsylvania.
And Judith, tell me how you got to be involved with Dawn Hennessy, I guess Dawn Daniels at the time. I'm not even 100% sure what her name was at the time, but Dawn Daniels Hennessy, the mother of Aaron Fisher, with regard to a rally and a candlelight vigil that you helped organize around the time that Aaron's book came out. Could you tell us how you came to be involved in that?
Yes. However, when I first met Dawn, I worked at a local convenience store, and Dawn lived in low-income housing, and her and her husband, Eric Daniels, would come to the store. That was the first, like she was an acquaintance. And then I seen her periodically throughout years, and I would speak and talk. Probably about 3 months prior to the Jerry Sandusky story breaking, excuse me, I seen Dawn at a local Walmart store, and we were talking, and she said she was having a lot of problems with Keystone Central, and it was blah, 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 blah. And then that was about it of it. And then Keystone Central meaning what? Central Mountain High School.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, so go ahead.
And she said she was having a lot of problems, and the conversation was just short, but she didn't look like she was showing any emotion. She was more busy telling me about all her dogs she had in housing and how she was keeping them, that Clinton County housing, from knowing she had like 3 dogs in her house because you weren't allowed to have dogs in the Clinton County housing.
Okay. But she never mentioned anything to you about anything involving Jerry Sandusky. Is that...
Not at that point. She did not.
Okay. And so then the news breaks about Jerry Sandusky, and at that time, did you connect this to Aaron Fisher at all?
And not at first, I didn't, until I saw on the news where Dawn was in a news article, and she was walking towards her local children and youth, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that must have been Dawn's son." And then one thing led after another, and I didn't hear anything. And then I saw her at a local regatta here in Lock Haven. They have it over Labor Day weekend. And I went up to her at the regatta. She was listening to music. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry about your son. I'm really sorry. I didn't know that was your son." And she goes, "Oh, that's okay." And she was laughing with her friends and stuff. And we sat there. She says, "Judy, I've been so busy. I've been in New York. ABC has me staying up at the Ritz. They're getting ready to promote a book." I said, "Oh, you wrote a book?" And she goes, "Yes." And she goes, "There's going to be an interview. It's going to be coming up soon." I said, "Oh, I'll have to watch it." And she goes, "It's really sad." So I left with my children, and we went through the regatta while the Chris Combo 2020 interview came on. And I listened to the story. I saw Aaron have the interview with him. And after everything, you know, I've seen things prior to this in the news, but that interview that night, I thought, oh my gosh, how could a school district not protect this child from Jerry Sandusky? And so I posted out on a Facebook page, let's picket our local high school. Well, anyhow, I was contacted by our local newspaper, the Lock Haven Express, that they wanted to do a story on me and Heather Ellis, girl that posted this out. We were arranging a picket. So the reporters come, and we set up the picket. Well, we set up the picket at first, and nobody showed up at this Sunday. It was just me and Heather. Nobody showed up the first meeting. So, however, I moved the meeting to my own home. And then I got probably about 5 or 6 people showed up. So, however, we started moving forward with the picket. It was 2 weeks away. And then Dawn, well, a couple of the relatives were Dawn's that were at to set up the rally, came to that meeting, and then Dawn got involved. And that's how it led to the picket at the local high school and the prayer vigil.
All right, so let's just review. So you had been an acquaintance of Dawn. You heard about Jerry Sandusky. I assume you presume Jerry Sandusky to be guilty, correct?
Guilty as all hell.
Okay, and so you feel sympathy for Aaron. You're upset at the high school, Central Mountain High School, because that's who Dawn was blaming, as opposed to Penn State, and that's who the focus of the 2020 story was on the high school, not on Penn State. So and so you want to get involved. You start a picket. It doesn't go very well, but then you want to do a rally and a candlelight vigil, and you and another woman are actually profiled in the local newspaper that you're going to do this, correct?
Yes.
All right. And so things are going okay until apparently you have a conversation with Dawn the night before the rally. Is that accurate?
Yes. She showed up at my house, and we were there making ribbons for sexual abuse victims and bullying ribbons. And Dawn's just sitting there, and she's going through her phone, showing everybody her pictures from ABC and being at the Ritz, showing Chris Combo's pictures. And
Chris Cuomo.
Okay. And Santina. She's showing those pictures and just bragging about everything.
And who's Santina?
I don't know. She's somebody connected with
ABC.
ABC.
Probably an ABC producer. Okay, so she's bragging about her trip to New York and showing you pictures. And what are you making of her temperament when she's doing this?
That she's very happy. She thinks she's a movie star.
Did this surprise you?
Yeah, it did surprise me a great deal.
And did this cause you to start to ask him further questions? Yes,
that definitely started prompting me to ask other questions. Like, I said, what about all the gifts like Aaron was getting from Mr. Sandusky? I said, why didn't you pick up on that, Dawn, before he was given all these elaborate gifts? She goes, Judy, Aaron didn't get those kind of elaborate gifts. Like Mr. Sandusky had Aaron up at his house and was going to go to church on a Sunday, and Aaron didn't have any appropriate church clothes. And so Dottie and Jerry took him out and got him church clothes and a pair of shoes. She says that Jerry gave him a computer that Penn State was going to throw away and things like that. And I said, well, why did it say in the news that he got all these gifts? She goes that Joe McGettin fabricated it per Dawn. This is per Dawn's conversation, which I'm willing to take a lie detector test too. Dawn said that he fabricated those things so that he could get a conviction on Jerry.
Now, hold on a second. Who said this?
Dawn.
Dawn said who told her that?
She said that McGettin fabricated it, made the gifts more elaborate.
Joe McGettigan?
Yes, I think it was somebody like a district attorney or something.
Joe McGettigan was the prosecutor from the Attorney General's office.
Yes, I don't know how much truth. That's what Dawn said.
Right. You don't know whether or not McGettigan actually did that, but you know that Dawn told you that McGettigan did that.
Yes, because he didn't get the kind of gift that was said in the trial.
Okay, so just to be clear, Dawn told you the night before this candlelight vigil that Joe McGettigan, and you're sure it was Joe McGettigan, correct?
Yes.
Okay, the Attorney General prosecutor who tried the case had purposely fabricated gifts that Aaron got, exaggerated them, so that he could help get a conviction because he knew that would be something that would show that Jerry was trying to curry favor with the family. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's what Dawn said. That's the only resource that Dawn said. Dawn's the one that said that. I didn't say
right,
that.
and you're positive that that's what Dawn said?
Absolutely, 100%, and willing to take a polygraph on it.
And was there somebody else there with you?
Heather Ellis.
And would she have the same recollection of this?
Probably. She was standing there.
Okay. All right. And so there was two other girls there. So and were they listening to this conversation?
However, a couple of the girls wanted to drop out because they didn't believe Dawn anymore.
When did that happen?
the night before. We were up to 4 o'clock.
And so why did they? Hold on a second. So why did they want to drop out because of this conversation with Dawn?
Because they said, "What if an innocent man? What if an innocent man is in jail?"
And what made them start to think that?
Because of the way of Dawn's actions.
And did you feel the same way?
Yes, and I felt the same way for a long time. Actually, it's made me sick.
Okay. All right, so let's take this piece by piece. So when she tells you Joe McGettigan, the prosecutor,
yes,
fabricated gifts to make it seem worse than it was with regard to what Jerry was giving Aaron. And by the way, it's hard to understand why Dawn would make that up, right? I mean, what does she have to gain there? I'm not quite sure, but okay. But again, Dawn's the one telling you this.
I think she told us that because I said, boy, Jerry was so good to Aaron. I said, I don't get him all those gifts. Why would he do something like that? And she goes, well, Mr. McGettigan, whatever his name was fabricating it out a little bit so that he could get a conviction, is what Dawn said.
So that he can get a conviction those exact words were used?
Yes. She said, however, Aaron never got those kind of gifts. He'd get like $20 for his birthday, just simple gifts,
right.
Normal people give for gifts.
So when you heard her say that, did a lightning bolt go off in your brain? Like, what is going on here?
Yes, it did.
All right. And so then did you ask further questions?
Yes, and then I said, well, how did his name, what made you move out of Clinton County housing? She said, I was being harassed by the neighbors. She said, Josh Fravel was being paid off from Armadillo, whatever his name.
Amendola?
Amendola was being paid off with cell phones and stuff to give testimony, to shoot her testimony, Aaron's testimony down.
Who was? Wait a minute. She was claiming that Amendola had paid somebody off to testify against her.
Yes, it was her neighbor.
And what did the neighbor testify to? Do you know?
I don't know. I've been looking for that. I haven't found it.
But what's the guy's name?
Josh Fravel.
All right, and she claimed that Amendola paid this person off to testify against her.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and it was a neighbor of hers.
Yes.
Okay. And did that sound plausible to you?
Oh, I didn't think of what I didn't think so.
Okay.
By this point, I'm pretty disgusted.
Right.
I didn't think so. So then I said, well, how did everybody find out about this story? And then she goes on to say, well, Sarah Gannon came knocking at her door. This is per Dawn. Came knocking at her doors prior to the story breaking. Sarah Gannon came knocking on her door, and she said that Sarah Gannon, Aaron's name was leaked out at the AG's office. And I said, well, how would Sarah Gannon get a leak like that out of the AG's office? She said because she believed Sarah Gannon was sleeping with someone from the Attorney General's.
Okay, so and this was something that Dawn also told you the night before the rally?
Yes.
So she tells you that the way that Aaron's name got leaked and why Sarah Gannon contacted her before Jerry ever got arrested. Correct? You're sure about that?
I'm positive.
Okay, so
lie detector test to it.
Okay, so Sarah Gannon had knocked on her door before Jerry ever got arrested, while the grand jury investigation is still going on, the secret grand jury investigation is still going on. And you ask her, well, how in the world did Sarah Gannon find out it was Aaron, and how the heck did she find out where you are? And you say that Dawn told you that Sarah had gotten that information because she was sleeping with somebody in the AG's office?
No, she said it was Sarah learned there was a leak out of the AG's office, is what Dawn said. And then she laughed and said Sarah Gannon was sleeping with someone from the AG's office.
Okay. Now, when she laughed about it, did you sense that she was making a joke, that that's how she got the information, or did you think that she had more?
That's how she got the information. Like she was joking, that's how she got the information, Sarah Gannon.
So you're not sure that she was claiming that Sarah Gannon actually had an affair?
No, I'm not sure on that. But she laughed after stating that.
But it was clear to you that the most important part here is that Sarah Gannon had gotten the information as a leak out of the AG's office.
Yes, and she said when Sarah came knocking on her door the first time and said she got the name, she said, Dawn kept saying, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. But, however, over a month or two, Dawn started talking to her. And before the break of the story, is what she said.
Which explains then how it was that just 3 days after the story broke that Dawn is interviewed by Sarah Gannon in the newspaper when no one else even knew who Aaron Fisher was at that point.
But I am willing to take a polygraph that Dawn said that she said she knew Sarah Gannon, and I believe it was prior to Mr. Sandusky even being arrested.
I'm sure it was. No, that makes perfect sense in the timeline. Now, my understanding is that because we've talked before to prep for this interview, that you had problems that night before because Dawn wanted to cancel the rally and the candlelight vigil because Sarah Gannon was covering Hurricane Sandy, and that therefore she couldn't get down to cover it and they wouldn't get enough coverage. Is that an accurate assessment of what happened?
Absolutely. What occurred that night, and Dawn called me. She said, Hurricane Sandy's going to be moving in, and I don't know how much rain we're going to get here. And I called my attorney, and I called Sarah, and my attorney said that Sarah said she was covering the Sandy story, and they wouldn't be able to get a cameraman up here. Dawn says, you got to call your local newspaper and talk to Lana and tell her that we're canceling for tomorrow.
But you didn't do that.
Oh, I did call my local newspaper, and Lana goes, "What is it, Judy? Are you doing the rally? Or you're not? You have a congressman coming. We publicized it already." And, Lana seemed like she was upset because they went out of their way to do coverage for Aaron.
So wait a minute. So the newspaper reporter convinced you to go ahead with the vigil anyway?
No. What I was saying, I was called the vigil. She goes, who's running this show? Is it you or Dawn? I said, by this point, I don't know who's running the show.
Okay, but the point is...
And then Dawn, while I was calling the Express trying to cancel it out, Dawn called the congressman, Glenn Thompson, and tried to cancel it out. And then I called Mr. Thompson back and told him we were going.
And did he show up?
Yes, he did, and he did a great job.
Okay. Although in retrospect, you're not quite so sure that he didn't stand up for the wrong cause, right? At the time you thought he did a great job, but I'm wondering, do you still feel that he was standing up for the truth?
I think a lot of it was moving forward. His speech was in moving forward.
Oh, okay. So he wasn't really vouching for Aaron
He wasn't against Mr. Sandusky, and he wasn't for Aaron. He just wanted that the conversation was moving forward.
Fair enough. Okay, so he shows up. You have the vigil, but let's go back to the night before, because apparently there was a few other things you found of interest. So let's go back to the ABC interview that Aaron did with 2020 and Chris Cuomo.
Yes. And then I said, you did that interview. I said, I got another thing, too. You did that interview, Dawn. I said, why don't you go on Oprah Winfrey? You know me, I don't know nothing about TV. I go, why don't you go on Oprah Winfrey or Dr. Phil or something about this? And she goes, no, I can never, ever put Aaron on live TV because it cannot be cut. She said with ABC, when Aaron messed up, they would cut it and then refilm it.
And when you say messed up, in other words, because the ABC interview was taped, Aaron didn't have to worry about making a mistake, because if he did, they would just cut it out of there for him.
Yeah, that's the way I took it as Dawn described it.
Now, so she didn't have confidence in Aaron's ability to tell his story without making mistakes.
Oh, no, Aaron never wrote his own speeches. Dawn was reading the speeches to us the night before, what he was going to read at the vigil, at the rally, what he was going to read at the rally. She writes all his speeches.
So she sat there and she read to you what she had written for Aaron to say at the rally the next day.
Yes.
And she wrote it, not Aaron.
Yes.
And did that strike you as odd?
Very odd. And I said, why isn't he doing his own speech? She goes, my biggest goal for Aaron in life is to get him into college. I think it was Ithaca or something he was going to go to college at.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, and to get him out of this town. However, he'll never have control of his money because I've got his money and I control his money.
So she controls everything about him.
Yes, she controls his money. And she told that because she wasn't going to have some girl take his money.
Some girl take his money?
Yes.
That's what she was considering.
And she hated his girlfriend, the one he just broke up with. He has children, too.
Right. I know who you're talking about.
She hated her.
So she controls his life, basically.
Oh, yes, every aspect.
Okay, so then do you find it interesting, because I know you've read the post of my exchange with her on Facebook. Do you find it interesting that she made an agreement with me to do a lie detector test and then suddenly bailed out of it? What does that tell you about what likely happened here?
I believe Dawn's liar. If she's not a liar, she would come forward and do the lie detector test and prove us all wrong.
And what about Aaron, though? I think
Aaron needs to be. Honestly, you want to know truthfully, I think Aaron has been surrounded in a bad lifestyle his whole entire life. This is his whole entire life. He's been in a bad lifestyle. I believe he's been a victim from the day he was born, way before Jerry Sandusky.
And what?
He remains a victim now.
Victim of who?
All the different men in his life. As you know, the story, Aaron's father was a child molester, his real father.
Well, his real father and his stepdad? Or who are you referring to, Eric Daniels?
His real father was a child molester down in Florida.
Okay.
That's in the book.
Right, I know, but he never knew his real dad.
And then, but there's something else you may not know. And then there's the stepfather, Eric Daniels. She told me how Eric Daniels was so abusive to her daughter. I really don't want to bring things up on this, about the daughter, because she's no part. And I believe her children are so messed up, and she's using her children to make a profit off of everybody.
Okay. Now, but to be clear, though, you have changed your mind about Jerry Sandusky abusing Aaron. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And why did you change your mind on that?
Because of all of Dawn's lies.
And so you believe that Dawn is a liar and that therefore she wouldn't be lying to this degree and in this way if Aaron's story was true. Is that a fair summation?
She wants the money.
Yeah, she wants the money.
She wants the money.
Well, let's go back to that night before the rally. Talk to me about her temperament and just how she was, did she seem like the mother of an abuse victim that night?
Absolutely not. She was too busy talking to her producers and showing us pictures and laughing and giggling and carrying on. She was very vindictive against Penn State, very vindictive against Jerry Sandusky, and very vindictive against Central Mountain High School.
Well, if her son was abused, that, of course, all makes sense. Anybody would be.
But not like a mother would be. Not like a mother. She'd joke about it. She'd say, they're all going to be out of there with no jobs, and la, 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 la. She just kept going on, and she was joking. And she
she was bragging about it.
Yes. Bragging about. Oh, and then she said in that ABC paid her, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I know she got an upfront cost for the book, for them doing the book. I think it was $250,000.
From the publisher?
Yeah, from ABC. They bought. I don't know how it worked, but she got $250,000 up front from, I believe it was ABC or somebody. She got $250,000 up front.
Oh, well, that would probably be the publisher. That doesn't sound like something ABC would do, but heck.
I'm not sure who she got this $250,000 from.
Okay.
And then she says, this book's got to go really big because if book hits the bestsellers list, she says, I get royalties off of the book.
Now, do you believe that the rally and the vigil was, in retrospect, simply a way for her to try to promote the book?
Yes, if you would have been at the rally and the vigil. Not as much the vigil, at the rally. They pulled into the rally like they were movie stars. Aaron gets out. He poses with the book. Like he took the book and posed in the pictures. Like he was actually posing for the camera people to take pictures of him.
I've seen the picture. He has this very forlorn look on his face, and I've seen the photo. It's quite it's an interesting photo. But so you believe that you were being used to try to promote the book? I
believe every one of us girls were.
And does everyone else in that group agree with you?
Maybe except one. Maybe two, but they were close related to Aaron. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Family.
Right. But there's more than just you who feels this way.
I know there's at least two others.
Now, let me go back to a couple other things that Dawn apparently told you. Do you remember what she told you about Ray Griecar, the district attorney who decided not to charge Jerry in 1998 and went missing in 2005? Do you remember her ever mentioning him to you?
Yes. She was saying it was because, first she said it was because of paperwork laid on his desk, and he didn't do anything in regards to Jerry. And then she said, however, it was some relation to Jerry Sandusky. I don't know how, but that's what she said.
Like a blood relative of Jerry Sandusky?
Yes.
She said that Ray Griecar was a blood relative of Jerry Sandusky?
Yes.
And did she seem to think that Jerry might have had something to do with Ray Griecar's disappearance?
No, she didn't say that.
Okay. All right. Well, to my knowledge, Jerry is not a relative of Ray Griecar. But that's a very interesting theory on her part, because she did say to me in my Facebook exchange with her that she thought that the Ray Griecar disappearance was connected to all this, which to my mind is just insanity, because it makes no sense at all. Now, there's one other element of this. Now, you had gotten involved with all of this because of your your belief that bullying is bad, and then you felt that Aaron was being unfairly bullied. And at first you thought he was being bullied because of the whole Sandusky situation. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
And then did your opinion on that change at some point?
Yes, the night before the rally, when we didn't know nothing, I thought we were bullying because of Jerry Sandusky. But however, she got very upset with the principals at the school because somehow there was a coach or a track coach or something that was hired, and the track coach was found by a principal, supposedly, per Dawn, laying on mats, and Aaron was laying on one mat, and the coach was laying on the other mat, and they were facing face-to-face, and the principal came in and saw them, and the man was fired. I know he runs marathons, and then that's when Aaron transferred to Sugar Valley Charter School.
I think you might have broken up there, but that's when Aaron transferred out of Central Mountain High School?
Yes.
So to review, according to Dawn,
yes,
and you've heard this from other people too, is that accurate?
Yes.
That there was a track coach at Central Mountain High School. This was after the Jerry allegations are public. And there's a track coach. The principal walks in and sees Aaron lying down on the mat face-to-face with the track coach. The principal sees it, fires the track coach, and Aaron gets bullied because of that. Is that what your understanding of the situation is?
I think he was bullied before from Jerry. Supposedly the principal leaked his name, but I cannot believe that. Mm-hmm. But Dawn got more upset about the track coach being fired than actual Jerry.
So wait a minute. So wait a minute. So the track coach gets fired because of a seemingly inappropriate moment with Aaron, who at this point is now known as the most famous alleged child molestation victim, certainly in the history of the school, if not the state, by far. And Dawn is upset that the track coach is fired?
Yes, because he was good. He was like a mentor to Aaron, she said.
But no, maybe I'm just thinking about this weird, but isn't it odd that if Aaron was in fact abused, right?
Yes.
And wouldn't you be hypersensitive?
I wouldn't have my children around any men. I wouldn't even have my children at school. I would have been picking my child up, or I would have been sitting there.
Right, but wouldn't your let's pretend that everything Aaron says is true. Right? He was used by Jerry, and you find out that now a track coach has your son lying down on a mat face to face in what a principal saw as an inappropriate moment. Don't you think that even emotionally your first reaction would be to go after the track coach? I mean, wouldn't?
Absolutely.
But instead she defended the track coach.
Yes.
And then transferred her son out of that high school because she was so ticked off about it.
Yes, and then she told many of us she was going to bring Central Mountain High School down, but why was she going to? Those principals did everything to keep Aaron safe, honestly.
So you don't think, in retrospect, you don't think Central Mountain High School did anything wrong?
No, not towards Aaron, no, I don't.
And you believe that Jerry Sandusky is an innocent man, at least with regard to Aaron?
Yes, in regards to Aaron.
You do understand, of course, that because of the nature of the case, if Aaron is in fact lying, that the rest of the case against Jerry Sandusky pretty much falls apart. You understand that, right?
Yes. Oh, Dawn also told me, since you brought that up, Dawn told me there was 2 secret grand juries.
Right.
And then she said the AG, there wasn't enough evidence. She said the AG went out knocking on people's doors to find victims.
Right. Well, that's what happened. That's true. She didn't lie there. she's telling you the truth there. That's how this whole thing happened, and that's why it took so long, because they couldn't find any evidence. So I mean, obviously you don't know. You don't know Jerry Sandusky, right?
Nope, don't know him.
You don't know Dottie, do you?
Nope, don't know Dottie.
Okay. But you've switched your position from being so sure that Jerry Sandusky was guilty that you were helping to promote and put together a rally and a candlelight vigil for Aaron Fisher, to now believing that Aaron Fisher was never abused by Jerry Sandusky. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
How much does this bother you?
My husband's here. It's bothered me a great deal, has it not, Frank?
Oh, yeah.
I've talked about it since it's broke, like I had a hard time living with myself, knowing this information and not knowing where to go with it.
Now, what made you decide to finally talk with me?
After I saw other people stepping up and having interviews with you.
So do you feel as if there are a lot of other people like you who have just been basically looking for it to be safe to come forward and tell what they know?
Yes, I do.
Since our last discussion where we recorded for an interview, you mentioned something to me that also happened the night before the rally with Dawn. Is it okay if I record your recollections of this?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So, Judith, you recently recollected something else that happened the night before the Aaron Fisher rally, when Dawn came over to see a bunch of you guys who were organizing the rally and the candlelight vigil, and that she happened to mention her brother. Could you tell me why she started mentioning her brother?
Yes, Dusty, if you go to the newspaper article, Dusty Fisher was one of my people that helped me with the rally vigil. And she was like making ribbons, and Dusty was running a little bit late that night. And when she showed up, she had blackened eyes and stuff. And I said to the girls, "What happened to Dusty?" And Dusty was real quiet. And then Dawn showed up. She pulled in her truck, and she showed up. I said, "What happened to Dusty?" She said, "That brother of mine had beat her up, and he said she had a bad experience with drugs." And I said, "Oh, my God, I didn't know that." She said she used to have to drag him to rehabs and stuff. And then she said, "It's all because of the Dr. Bender case." And I said, and of course I remember the Dr. Bender case. It was a case in the Clinton County area which involved a lot of young boys that testified against Dr. Bender. And she told me her brother was one, and she said she was the one that was real involved in that because she researched Dr. Bender, and she was following Dr. Bender on this case, and she would drag her brother out of Dr. Bender's house.
She would drag her brother out of Dr. Bender's house?
Yes.
Meaning what?
Meaning that she was leading the police there. She led the police there. She was part of leading the police there.
Is that what she told you?
Yes, she did. And she said she researched them. She knew all the boys' names. Well, I don't know if all the boys' names are public record, but it was a profile case here in Clinton County. And then I think it moved out to Altoona. It went to a higher court. And I really lost.
All right, but let's rewind here for a second. So, for those who, and I've never heard of the Dr. Bender case before, Dr. Bender was somebody who was accused of giving drugs to boys and also having sex with them. Is that accurate?
Yes, absolutely.
And this was in the early 2000s?
Yeah, around 2000, 2001, 2002.
And Dawn told you that her brother, what's her brother's name?
B.J. Fisher.
Okay. So Dawn, who was originally...
He was a victim of Dr. Bender, she said.
Okay. And do you know whether or not he got a monetary settlement from Dr. Bender?
She said her mother and father went after Dr. Bender, but she never disclosed any amount that was given.
Did she give you the impression that they had gotten some money from Dr. Bender?
Yes, she did, because she said he blew all that money. This is what she said, and they bought her brother was living in a log home up above the Marsh Creek area. And I said, oh, my gosh, that's a beautiful home, because she was showing pictures of that. And she said, when I get Jerry's money, I'm going to pay that house off for them.
That's a direct quote.
Direct quote. Per Dawn.
And why do you remember that so well?
Well, I remembered it. I remembered it that night, but we were talking about so many different things. And then I started tonight thinking about this, and I remembered talking to Dawn directly because I knew Dr. Bender. Dr. Bender was my own doctor. Dr. Bender was my mother's doctor. Dr. Bender was a very well-known cardiologist in the area.
All right. Now, and you would take a lie detector test that Dawn told you that?
Absolutely, take a lie detector test.
And so Dawn tells you a bunch of things, and including that her brother was one of the boys in the Dr. Bender case, that they sued, that he blew his money. She said that to you.
Yes, and that she was going to wait for Jerry's money to come in, or not Jerry's money, Penn State's money, and she was going to pay the house off up above Marsh Creek, is what she said. She's been keeping them. And she's opened a great big wood shop now, selling stuff. She has like an actual store on eBay.
Dawn does.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm not worried about that so much, but the story about waiting for money from Penn State to pay off the house of the brother who blew his money from a previous settlement with Dr. Bender under incredibly similar circumstances is really quite remarkable, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it is.
Now, when you heard all that the night before the rally for Aaron, what was your response? What do you remember thinking?
I was thinking, oh my gosh, and I remembered one of the girls that was there. I don't want to disclose her name right now, but I'm sure she'll do the interview with you. She was there when that statement actually was said, because me and that other girl sat at my house till about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, debating whether to go through with the rally or not. Because you had
the same reaction to Dawn.
Yeah, because we were like, both me and the other girl said, what if we are doing this and an innocent man is in jail?
And you felt that the night before the rally, both of you did?
Yes, we did.
And obviously, since then, you've only feel more strongly about that. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Because that night when she was there, she goes, oh, I just can't stand this anymore. And the girl that...
When you say, who said I can't stand this anymore?
The girl that I want to...
Oh, okay. Okay, all right, fine.
And she said to me, well, you think for 1 minute, she goes to me, when she picked me up that morning to go to the rally, she goes, you think... She actually worked for the school district, Keystone Central.
Mm-hmm.
She went up, she goes, you think for 1 moment I'm going down there and stand holding signs? She's not. She was at the rally, and she stayed in the upper parking lot. She never walked down to the rally, and she only came to the prayer vigil because of me. And honestly, it was most of our friends that came to the prayer vigil.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go back to Dr. Bender. So you were a patient of Dr. Bender. Your family was all patients of Dr. Bender.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you didn't believe the allegations against Dr. Bender?
They were a hard thing to swallow, too, because he was such a good doctor. He had a heart of gold, like Jerry. He had a lot, and the boys were all troubled boys. Same similar situation as Jerry.
Do you remember, though, how his case was adjudicated at all?
I don't remember how it went. I think he was found guilty, but it went to an upper court. I don't know. I think he might have had an electronic bracelet or something on. I'm not sure.
You don't think he's in jail right now?
I don't know.
Okay. But
I don't think he got anything like Jerry, and this was a lot of boys from the Clinton County area.
Okay, but this must have really been quite shocking to you to hear this connection from Dawn to a financial settlement involving a case very similar to Sandusky's case with her brother and a doctor that you knew. This must have been quite unsettling, I'm assuming.
Yes, it was. And I'm sorry for not telling you the first time, but like I said, I was talking about so many things that my husband said to me tonight, why didn't you tell him about that Dr. Bender case? And I said, I absolutely forgot.
Well, it's not a problem. I understand that one thing often leads to another when it comes to remembering things, and there's an awful lot to remember from that conversation that you guys had, which obviously had a dramatic impact on how you viewed her and Aaron's story.
That's why I think, honestly, a lot of the people in Clinton County, it's a really sore subject to a lot because they had Dr. Bender. And like our own teachers at Keystone Central, the principals even said Jerry had a heart of gold.
Well, but the so-called experts will tell you that that's the nice guy offender. That's how they some of these pedophiles work. They're the nice guy, heart of gold, and that no one suspects them. Of course, what I've always thought is, well, what does that mean for the guy who has the real heart of gold? Is he automatically guilty?
And I was thinking about this, John, for a simple reason. It's been Aaron's whole life that he's been around sex offenders, supposedly, and then all of a sudden, like she told me before, that she was researching Jerry back to Philadelphia, and did you know that Dawn was also Dottie Sandusky, and Jerry used to babysit Dawn's other kids because she did a lot of fundraising on Penn State for cheerleading.
Right. In fact, Dottie has said that. I don't know if you know that or not, but Dottie told that story about how they babysat for Dawn's other kids. But you knew that. How did you know that?
Dawn told me. She said when Jerry would come to her house, she said she considered Jerry just as part of the family. Mm-hmm. Jerry would come in and he would do like cheers and stuff. She said she just thought the world of Jerry. Well,
here's what I'm confused by. I'm confused by a lot of things in this whole deal. But with regard to the Dr. Bender thing, now you would think if her brother had been abused in a similar circumstance, and that she had been part of that and researched it, you would think that she would become far more suspicious of Jerry far sooner.
There would have been warning signs to her. She should have had warning signs to her. Right.
I mean, if she already had her brother allegedly abused, it took 3 years before, and she had, according to her own testimony in her own book, she had no idea that anything was going on with Jerry. And in fact, I have interviews with other people who say that even when Aaron started making the accusations, that Dawn was still defending Jerry to other cheerleading friends. So at the very, very best, Dawn is exceedingly late, absurdly late in figuring out that there might be a problem with Jerry. That's even without her brother having been abused by Dr. Bender, allegedly. So you get what I'm saying here, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
No, it doesn't.
And of course, the coincidence there is really remarkable. I mean, you have her being involved in a apparent financial settlement with the brother, her own brother, in a very similar circumstance. And by the way, you also have Dawn's former husband, Aaron's former stepdad, Eric Daniels, charged and convicted, pled guilty to 100 counts of child molestation. And as you mentioned earlier, so you have this incredible situation where everybody in Aaron's life is either an abuser or has been abused, allegedly. And
I'm so sorry, John, I didn't tell you.
No, that's okay. But this could be very significant because I've always been wondering, well, where did Aaron get the idea to do this? And I'm wondering, do you think? I mean, clearly he must have heard about his uncle, right? I mean, you would
absolutely.
No, I mean, you're just guessing that.
Close. They're very close, the uncle and him.
Oh, you know that? How do you know that?
Because they showed up at my house. Aaron and the uncle showed up at my house that night.
The night before the rally.
Mm-hmm. And to tell you, before I even kept it going to the point that it was, okay, we're going to do this. I kept telling everybody we're going to look like fools. We got to follow through with this. I said, if you don't believe he did it, stand along the road. Katrina stood up in the upper parking lot. My other volunteer stood out at the intersection with me. And the only girl that stood during the rally was Heather Ellis. She was the only one. She was the leader of the rally. And I'll tell you, before the rally, Keystone Central cooperated a great deal. They had their police officer come down, and they showed me the area that we could stay in. And Dawn says, oh, we'll go anywhere we want to on the property. And I said, well, I'm staying in this area. And they didn't show up. When they pulled into that rally, I'm telling you, they pulled in like movie stars. Aaron stood and posed for the photographers to actually take poses. He was positioned with his book like he was posing. Don wrote it. We all knew what he was going to say the night before because Don read his speech to all of us. And it was a tearjerker.
A tearjerker or joker?
A tearjerker.
Sounds like a Freudian slip there. I mean, it could have been a little bit of both. Now, so what is your theory then? How much do you think Dawn was behind all this with regard to Jerry?
Okay, like I said, I think Dawn has brainwashed her own son.
Yeah.
I think they, how do I want to say? Dawn has always lived in the housing development, low income.
No, we've discussed the fact that she wanted money, but I'm just the Dr. Bender situation is really quite extraordinary. If everything you're saying is true, and I have no reason to doubt it,
you can bring it up on the net.
Right, but I doubt that Fisher's name was involved in it publicly.
It'll be BF. The initials. They used the initials of the boy.
BF?
Yeah.
Okay.
BF.
All right. And we don't know for sure that he got a settlement, although Dawn says he did. See, one of the things I'm battling with and trying to figure out Dawn's role here, Judith, is this, and I'm wondering what your opinion is. I've talked to a lot of people, but one person in particular who had a daughter that cheered with Dawn's daughter and a son who wrestled with Aaron. And so they got to know each other pretty well. Yes. She feels very similarly to you as far as what really happened here.
Yes.
But a lot of the things that she says that Dawn told her, and she's just as positive of it as you are, although her memory might not be quite as good as yours. But she's also quoted Dawn. And she's quoted Dawn to things that I don't believe to be true. And so I'm wondering, what it's hard to tell, is Dawn a pathological liar? Or is she a manipulator? Is some of what she's saying true? Some of it's a lie? I mean, it's bizarre to me to think that the best case for Aaron's story is that his mom's a pathological liar, because frankly, some of the things that she has apparently said to other people are incredibly inconsistent with Aaron's story being true about Jerry, unless they're total lies. And so, in other words, the best scenario for Aaron's story is that his mother's a pathological liar. You follow me? And so, what was your sense? Did you feel as if she was a liar, or somebody
By the end of that night, I knew in my heart that she was a liar. And 3 days later, after the rally, I removed her off my Facebook.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. I get that you can generally think of someone as a liar.
Yes.
And clearly, if she helped manipulate Aaron into a false story against Jerry for money, that makes her inherently a liar.
Yes.
But do you think that everything she told you is a lie? Do you follow me? That, like, for instance, when she told you that Joe McGettigan had told her that he exaggerated the gifts Aaron got in order to get a conviction, was that a lie? Or was that, I mean, because either way, I mean, if she's telling the truth there, that's devastating to the case against Sandusky. And if she's lying, well, why is she lying? I mean, because then it destroys her credibility. So which do you, in that, do you understand what I'm saying? What do you think is really going on there?
I think because, like the girls that were in my house, most of the girls that were doing these rallies were girls that were upstanding girls in our community. When you talk to them, you'll see them. They were very upstanding, law-abiding, and some of them come from money. I think she just wanted to fit in the clique, I think, because, you come to my house, you looked at Dawn's house, you come to the other girls' house, you looked at Dawn's house, she lived in low income, and then she moved to a dump that was a couple blocks away from mine, and she came there, and I said, well, Jerry, why would you do this? Because Jerry gave all those gifts. And she goes, well, Joe McGettigan fabricated some of the gifts. Jerry really didn't give him all that stuff.
All right. Now, do you remember the word fabricated?
Yes, I remember the words fabricated.
And again, you take a lie detector test on that.
Once again, I will take one.
All right. Now, because that's, and she also said, in order to get a conviction, right?
Yes, in order to get a conviction.
All right, now just so we know, that's Joe McGettigan you're talking about is his name. That's the prosecutor from the Office of the Attorney General. So I guess what I'm asking you is your sense about Dawn that she lies about everything, or she lies strategically in certain situations to get what she wants? What do you think's going on? Because I can't make any heads or tails of it.
I think it depends on the crowd she's with. She wants. I'll tell you what I think she wants. I think even though Dawn won all that money, she didn't win the social status, and she so wants that social status. So if she's in a similar situation with people that may have money, like the girls that were there, she lied and said that he fabricated it. You know what I mean?
See, well, see, yeah, I guess I'm getting what you're saying, but I asked Jerry about this, and he agrees that while he can't remember specifically, he believes that the gifts were exaggerated. So that could be something that's actually true. I mean,
and it could be because she said like he bought Aaron church shoes and clothes to go to church. What man that supposedly is raping a boy is taking a boy to church and buying him church clothes, and his wife, and making him such an active member of his family? By the end, if you would have been in that conversation, John, your mind would have been so twisted. I think that night before the rally, me and my girlfriend, she went home. I think we got 2 or 3 hours sleep before we pulled that off.
So tell me, the woman, I guess her name is Heather, the one who did not change her mind, at least first. Is that accurate? That's her name? Heather
Ellis is honestly, she's really, I think Heather Ellis, her ideal of doing the rally was because she was a personal advocate. She advocated for special needs children in the area.
But she didn't have her opinion of Dawn or Aaron change at all.
I lost contact with her. She's still in the area.
So you don't know for sure, but
I don't know. Everybody that helped Dawn with her rally and everything, I don't think any of us bother with her anymore, to tell you the truth.
Well, she doesn't need you guys anymore, and if you're not believing
everybody was so mad because she was promoting the book. And I'll tell you, John, it was hard to even get anybody to speak at her rally. Mr. Thompson did it, but I called other officials in the area. They wouldn't talk, like our commissioners. Nobody would talk.
Did anything else ring in your recollection about this episode involving Tom Hunter, the track coach? Because I was able to find out a little bit more information. Aaron, on his Facebook page, posted in early September of 2011, and that is just 2 months before Jerry's arrest. He posted something rather cryptic about him getting blamed for his track coach's firing. And now, and you were understandably a little bit confused about the timing of it all, because originally, you thought the bullying that Aaron was receiving was because of the allegation against Jerry, and then you later learned it was actually more about the track coach, correct?
Yeah, they were more worried about the track coach and what they were really worried about.
Right. Okay, but
Jerry Sandusky.
And your understanding, and I don't know whether or not anything else is jived in your recollection, but your understanding is that dealt with a situation where the principal found Aaron laying on a mat face-to-face with Tom Hunter, and that the principal fired Tom Hunter. Yeah,
you just jogged my mind, John. Since you said about Facebook, I had several sites up on there, and I'm wondering, since I took her off Facebook, there was conversations that me and Dawn had on Facebook. I was trying to get on here to look at them. I recalled that. I just remembered them conversations going on my Facebook. I don't know if they might have removing her or what, but
they might still be there if you go back and
I was going to look and see if they were still there for you.
Well, you should take a look at that. But I guess back to the Tom Hunter situation.
Yeah.
It's weird because the New York Times actually interviewed Tom Hunter not about his own firing, although they allude to it bizarrely, as if it has nothing to do with this case at all, as if it's a weird aside, I guess, that Aaron had something to do with his getting released. Although they reference some emails that Tom Hunter apparently sent Aaron that were too friendly. And I'm wondering two things. First of all, I'm wondering, does any of that jog any more recollection on what you...
No, I didn't know anything about the emails. All I knew is Dawn said the vice principal at that time walked into the gym.
Oh, so it was the vice principal.
The vice principal.
Okay.
He was the man. He walked in and seen Aaron and Coach laying face-to-face on the mat.
Do you remember who the vice principal was?
Yeah, it's the one it's currently. If you go to the website, you can see it. That's Central Mountain High School.
He's still the vice principal?
No, he's the principal now.
Steve,
he was the one.
The football coach?
In the interview, the principal and the vice principal in the 2020 interview.
Okay, so Steve Trichetta, is that his name?
Yes.
The football coach?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so, see, again, the context here is incredibly important, because, and what is your source for Steve Trichetta being the person who walked in on Aaron Fisher?
Dawn.
Dawn told you this?
Yes.
Again, this was the night before the rally?
Yes, again. Because I started asking a lot of questions,
Clearly, all right.
One thing led to another and led to another question.
Okay, so Steve Trichetta, the then football coach, assistant, or the vice principal, who's now the principal, Dawn tells you that he walked in on Aaron, and that's why Tom Hunter got fired.
Yes.
Okay.
And then he moved to Sugar Valley. Sugar Valley Charter School.
Tom did?
No, Aaron. He left the
yeah, because he was getting so much bullying or whatever because of the Hunter episode.
Yes, and he was being, and she blamed the principal for leaking Aaron's name out, and that was supposed to cause some bullying. But the principal always treated Aaron very nice.
Well, Steve Trichetta is an important figure here, and it's obvious to me that by September of 2011, he would have known about Aaron's allegations against Jerry, and that because otherwise there would have been no reason why they would have responded so swiftly against Tom Hunter unless they knew, he had to have known something about Aaron's allegations. And I'm sure he did, because the first person in fact, I'm recollecting that he actually did know, because he was the football coach and he had Jerry as an assistant with him. And so they would have gone to him and said, do you know anything about Jerry maybe abusing Aaron? And so that's important context, but it also goes to what the hell is Aaron doing? Because if you're really coming out of an abusive relationship with a coach figure, are you really going to engage in that kind of behavior with another coach, even if it's totally innocent?
Absolutely not.
And of course, is Dawn going to defend the coach instead of she defends Tom Hunter, but she when convenient attacks Jerry Sandusky? You would think that she would be so gun shy, she'd be so frightened after what happened allegedly with Jerry, that any allegation against another coach or teacher would have her freak out. Any mom.
Absolutely. I would never let my son around anybody like that. Absolutely not.
It's just so mind-blowing. But, Jerry is convinced that Steve, who obviously was a friend of Jerry's for a long time.
Yeah. And I think that school still to this day, if I would have to talk for that school, I think Steve, nobody ever dreamt Jerry could ever have done anything like this. Well,
see, Jerry believes that Steve was intimidated into testifying the way that he did, and that in fact he was not even able, according to Jerry, was not even able to give Jerry's schedule, which would have helped exonerate him, because of pressure from either the school district or the Office of the Attorney General or whatever.
If she thought all this all along, why did she keep sending her kids? She sent her other two kids up there. It just does not make.
You mean they went to Central Mountain after Aaron went there?
Yeah, she said, her daughter tried to go back to Central Mountain a couple times, and she said they were throwing garbage cans at her daughter and all this stuff. And her daughter's got in trouble. Her daughter just recently stole her truck and smashed it up.
Okay, so did she go to Central Mountain High School, the daughter?
Yep, her daughter did, yeah.
So she sent her daughter, I don't know why I never thought about this, but she sent her daughter to Central Mountain High School after Central Mountain High School allegedly fed Aaron to Jerry Sandusky.
Yeah, absolutely her daughter was up there. It's only been the last 2 years that her daughter was over at Sugar Valley, yeah.
And she left because of bullying too?
Yeah.
And do we have any idea why she got bullied?
Because of Aaron, supposedly.
And because no one believes Aaron, I guess.
Yep, no one believes.